Today, let's talk about AI shame. There's at least two different kinds of AI shame, but the two most common kinds I'll address here. There's a meeting right now somewhere. It could be Zoom, it could be in a conference room, you know, the kind with bad lighting, the coffee that's been sitting there since 9, someone disconnecting and reconnecting, maybe someone from their car with the steering wheel filling up most of the frame. But there's two people in that meeting that are nodding. It's the same nod, but they're having completely different experiences. One of them is thinking, the expert, I built half this presentation with AI, 3 weeks of prompting, 47 drafts, midnight sessions that nobody saw. If I tell them I used AI, they're going to think I typed one sentence and got this and basically cheated. 3 weeks collapses into 30 seconds in their head if I just let them know I used this tool. Everything I learned is invisible. All the whole skill I built to get this result, it's invisible. So I sit here, I nod, and it eats at me. Person 2, this is the person that is afraid to touch AI. The person that hasn't been able to make themselves jump into it yet. Their classical knowledge is still working. And they're thinking, that junior associate just did in 30 seconds what it took me 3 days last quarter. Everyone's nodding. I don't know what I'm supposed to be now. I built my whole career on being the person who knew, the expert. People didn't go to AI, they went to me. And now I don't even know who I am anymore. So it's the same meeting. It's the same nod, but two completely different kinds of pain. And both of them are being lied to by the same thing. If you've ever been one of them, this video is about to change something really big. My name is Robert, and I'm stupid. There's a word for this lie, and I'll give it right now, and we'll come back to it. I've dubbed it auto magic, and it actually cuts both ways for each person. Auto magic is the assumption that the AI output arrives instantly, effortlessly, and without expertise. That you typed one sentence and the perfect thing appeared. The expert is afraid you'll believe this about their work. The classical knowledge expert, who hasn't used AI much, if at all, he's afraid that that magic is really true and that their job is really obsolete and that AI can truly replace them. And both of these people are wrong and need a little bit more information. But before I go any further, let me address the shame itself. And let's go ahead and dispel that myth that you need to be feeling any kind of shame. I need to say something that will reframe this for you. Nobody understands AI, not the way you think that they do. WalkMe surveyed over 1,000 professionals, more than half of Gen Z workers who were raised and grew up with social media and the internet. More than half of them admit to outright faking AI understanding in meetings, not being uncertain or not being totally sure and getting part of it, but literally faking comprehension that they don't have. And obviously it's not just the younger workers that have this issue. Nearly half of all professionals across every age admitted to hiding their AI use entirely on one side, or pretending to understand concepts that they've never touched on the other. That's half the workforce, and I suspect it's actually a lot more than that. And now, let me dissolve your shame a little bit further with this info. 53% of C-suite executives admit to faking their AI competency. So the people signing off on the AI strategies, the entire corporate hierarchy is currently running on a shared, silent, mutually agreed upon illusion. That's not a problem at the bottom, that's a problem at all the levels. That's the current architecture that we live in. Dario Amodei, he's the CEO of Anthropic. His company built one of the most capable AI systems on the entire planet, and he published an essay and wrote, "This should dissolve the rest of your shame right now." The engineers who built their own AI systems cannot fully understand how they work. These systems form their own internal connections, billions of them, that nobody can fully trace or predict. The architects are working in a cathedral that they partially designed and they cannot entirely map. So if you're sitting in a meeting carrying shame about not understanding that the people who built it openly admit they can't even understand. What are you ashamed of? You're not behind. You're just the first person in the room willing to say so. But data doesn't fix the shame. You need to know which type you are first. I want to go back to those two people nodding in the room, because they're not just emotional states, they're actually two different problems with different lies at the center. So the first one is the shadow AI user, or the current expert. This is the person who uses AI regularly, skillfully, meaningfully, and tells nobody. 3 weeks of prompting, the iteration, that means updating it, trial and error. The 3 a.m. session where they finally cracked the thing that they couldn't crack, they got the output they wanted. The draft where the model hallucinated something, being super confident and then being totally wrong, and they caught it. And because they spent 3 weeks developing the judgment to know the difference and develop this skill, they are able to get the outputs that they do. None of that pre-work or iterative work is visible in the output. Nobody sees it. The observer, the person they hand the work to, they just see the 30 seconds it took the final result to get produced. And this person keeps their mouth basically shut because they already know what happens when they don't. The craft collapses into a cheat code in the other person's mind, the person seeing the result. So they sit there, they stay quiet, and it just eats at them. And here's what I want to say to that person directly. You did the work. The prompt is the skill. The iteration is the skill. Knowing when the output is wrong, that's entirely yours. Nobody can auto magic that out of our existence. The tool did not do it. You did it with the tool. The person you hired to redo your roof, they used a nail gun instead of a hammer. That didn't create the roof. The worker did. He just used a different tool. And that distinction is not semantics. It's the entire argument for why you're still in the room, why they're still paying you. Still. And they will continue to do so. And if you watch this and think, okay, that's not me, I'm not hiding anything, well then stay with me, because the next one is the one that actually arrives later, sometimes years later. And when it does, it's harder. Let's talk about the classical knowledge expert. Now, the apocalyptic media and the LinkedIn articles, your job's going to be gone tomorrow, they call this the legacy knowledge expert. It's not legacy knowledge. It's even more important today than it's ever been. The classic knowledge worker is the person who spent years building a professional identity about being the person who knows, the writer who knows structure, the analyst who knows the data, the strategist who can just go in and read the room. And then AI produces in 30 seconds what used to take 3 days. Something cold lands in their chest. And I call this the competence funeral, because it gives them the feeling that competence is dead. All that work is for nothing. The version of yourself that you thought you knew without question, that was valuable, that did things that had always been valuable, that people went to for advice, that person may not be needed like they used to be, at least so you think. And then the fear underneath, the grief, maybe that 3 days of work that the 30 seconds of AI replaced was never the point. Maybe the expertise they spent years building being automated, maybe the identity they're afraid it's going to go with it. Maybe they're staring at a future where they are genuinely, materially, and economically starting to feel replaceable. And they have been through school already. It's too late for them in their mind to start over. And that's not a philosophical fear. That's a showing up home and what do I tell my family fear? What are we going to do? Researchers call this job hugging. Clinging to a position not because you love it, but because the alternative feels like failing. And more of this is happening in the AI age, especially for those that avoid the tools, because to them it's still magic. They're not realizing it's an accelerator for the work that they're already doing. So those people who hide from AI for now, they stop pushing for promotions. They stop taking risks. They get smaller and quieter and hope nobody looks too closely at what they actually do all day. And quietly, very quietly, some of those same people are signing up for electrician apprenticeships at night and on the weekends. Speaking of that, Geoffrey Hinton, Nobel Prize winner, for those of you who care, the man who built the foundation of modern AI, told this to people publicly. Trained to be a plumber, because plumbers don't get auto-magicked. A leaking pipe, apparently, doesn't care about your prompt engineering. And I get it. The fear is rational. The ground is moving, and the instinct is to find something that doesn't move. But, when I hear those words, and having used AI every day, all day for the past 4 years, I think he's a Nobel Prize winner, and I'm just the leader of the Stupa movement, but I'm going to call bullshit on that. And I get it. That fear is rational. The ground is moving, and the instinct is to find something that doesn't move. We don't want to change. Your expertise didn't become obsolete. That's the number one thing I want to tell you. It became load-bearing. The years spent in your industry, the pattern recognition, the judgment calls, the times you were wrong and had to figure out why, the specific texture of how your clients think, the failure modes nobody wrote down because everybody just survived them and internalized them. AI was never trained on that, and it can't be. It was trained on what was published. You were trained on what happened. You were trained on the reality. That is classical knowledge, not legacy knowledge, not outdated knowledge. The foundational, durable, deeply personal knowledge that only exists inside people who did the work before the tools arrived. It doesn't compete with AI, it calibrates it. And without your expertise telling the tool what matters, what's missing, what's wrong, the output is fast and hollow. Auto magic with nobody home. With your expertise directing it, it becomes precise and it becomes yours. You, human, are not in the loop. You are the loop. I want to tell you how that's true, and it comes from an unexpected place. The people that are trying to catch AI writings. You've heard the term AI slop. It's what happens when AI generates without a human who knows what good looks like anywhere near it. Technically competent, emotionally hollow. It answers a question nobody asked in a voice that nobody has, and it is everywhere now. You've read it, you've recognized it without being able to explain why. You just knew. That recognition has a name, the uncanny valley. You may have heard of the uncanny valley when it comes to the context of CGI and movies, computer-generated images. It's why a studio can spend $40 million on a digital face and you spot it in the first frame. Your brain fires something is wrong before your conscious mind even has a word for it. And it runs deeper than faces. You have 43 muscles in your face. 43. And each one of them is capable of micro expressions that last for a fraction of a second. Changes so small that most people cannot consciously detect them but feel them anyway. Paul Ekman spent decades cataloging them. Poker players spend years learning to suppress them, wearing sunglasses when they can't. Therapists spend their careers learning to read them. Humans are not casual observers of communication. We are ancient experts. We've been reading faces, tone, pauses, rhythm, and the specific texture of someone's language since before we had written words. This is not a hobby for humans. This is what's kept us alive. Paul Ekman spent decades cataloging them. Poker players spend years learning to suppress them, and when they can't, they wear sunglasses as big as they can find. Therapists spend their careers learning to read those expressions. Humans are not casual observers of communications. We are experts. We're ancient experts. We've been reading faces, tone, pauses, rhythm, and specific texture of someone's language since before we even had written words. This is not a hobby for us. This is what's kept us alive. And most of us are way too lazy to find 10 perfect emojis for a post or use the double dash exactly once per paragraph. That's not a flaw. That's the signature. The human irregularity that no statistical model is optimized to produce. When you read AI's slop and feel something hollow, that's the 43 muscles in written form. 10,000 years of social cognition and a billion years of evolutionary communication all firing at once saying, something's missing. And what's missing is you. Let me show you what that actually looks like. You're in a strategy meeting. Someone says we're losing customers at month 3, and your brain does this. Okay, month 3. That's about when my gym membership guilt peaks. I never canceled. I never stopped going. I just didn't leave. I went quiet. I didn't cancel it. And then you stop and you say, you know what? We don't have a churn problem. We have a ghost problem. They didn't leave angry. They just went quiet, which means we've been sending win back emails to people who were never gone. They just felt awkward about coming back. So let's try this, guys. Let's stop pressuring them and let's just hold the door open. In that room, dead silence. Someone opens up a laptop, writes a few notes. And that week, the team scraps the win-back sequence. No urgency, no countdown timer, no we miss you. Just one email. Your spot's still here, no pressure. And guess what? That simple human understanding means that month 3 retention goes up 19%. The gym membership, the one that you've been neglecting, saved the quarter. And no AI model goes from month 3 churn to gym guilt to re-engagement strategy. But you did. This is not distraction. This is not some kind of ADD. This is nonlinear pattern recognition. A billion years of evolution continuing to run the same code that kept your ancestors alive through dinosaurs, volcanoes, diseases, everything else. You're still here. Every age that should have ended what you are, the human that you are today, or even what you do, the industrial age, the information age, the attention economy, the TikTok meme cycle that somehow became our new cultural language. You're still here, still asking questions, still finding the thing the environment forgot to ask. And this is not new. When Gutenberg invented the printing press, the scribes, their entire identity was designed to meticulous replication of texts by hand. Suddenly, a machine could do in a day what took them a lifetime. It wasn't just their task at risk, it was their profound sense of meaning that was at risk. The grief of the scribe was real. It was pointing, though, at the wrong thing. The printing press didn't make reading obsolete, it made reading the most powerful skill in civilization. The scribes, those same ones who thought they'd lost their meaning and job, well, they were the ones who understood deeply the text and could interpret it, analyze it, debate it. Those people didn't lose their power. They inherited a larger world and a larger audience. The expert's grief is real. It's just pointing at the wrong thing. I've been on both sides of these two people that we keep coming back to, the nodders. And what I want to talk about is the way out for each one of them. If you're the shadow AI user, if you're the expert, the one keeping the 47 drafts invisible, you use AI as a need to know item, not a confession, not a disclaimer. If the person receiving the work doesn't need to know how the kitchen runs, they don't need to know. The chef doesn't narrate every tool that they touched or every ingredient that they used. They just deliver your meal. When someone does need to know, name the real thing, the iteration, clever ideas you came up with, the work that you put into it to get it to this point, the judgment calls that you made. You're not defending yourself. You're translating the process. Own the 3 weeks and the 47 drafts and name the tool. Own the work that went into that auto magical result that they see. If you are the classical expert, the one carrying the competence funeral in your chest, the one that's really afraid for your job, that shame doesn't survive contact with the tool itself. Open it tonight. Open it just right now. Pause the video. Just touch the thing that's been living rent-free in your chest. Go to chatgpt.com. Just create the free account. You don't even have to log in. Just type something. Type something that feels embarrassing. Do you have a hobby? Are you into model trains or Pokemon or into Star Trek or whatever? Ask a question. Just get the conversation started. Just start talking and you'll realize quickly that this is a very friendly tool. You could also, once you're a little bit more comfortable, if you want to dive deeper, you can give it the thing that AI rarely gets from users, which is context. Without the right context, it really can't know your situation. But if you want to do a journal entry and just open up the confessional with ChatGPT or whatever tool you're using, you can tell it what you do every day and you can ask for ideas. Say, hey, what opportunities am I missing here? What parts of this work can you help? And it will answer you. And guess what? By giving that context and asking that question, that's not a beginner prompt. That's a weapon prompt, because AI will immediately show you where your classical knowledge is a superpower. And your classical knowledge will immediately flag everything that AI gets wrong. And you're going to start to see this is not an infallible tool. You'll spend the first 15 minutes feeling strange, and the next hour feeling something you haven't felt in a while. The friction in your mind, always worse than the reality of the software, is going to say, this isn't so bad. And once you type in your first prompt, something shifts. You realize it's just a chat box. And then something else. You're the most important thing in that conversation. And something else. That conversation didn't even start without you. And I want to be honest about something. This video is my answer to a specific genre of content that kind of ticks me off. The AI apocalypse videos are really easy to monetize and get clicks for, or get engagement from. The AI replacing you thumbnails. The breathless predictions that one day the government will have to give everyone an allowance because the machines took all the jobs. I'm tired of watching people get deliberately scared by content designed to monetize that fear. So let me give you some information that flips the tables on why AI should be very scared. Believe it or not, this is a thing. I've heard no one talk about this, so get ready. Hit subscribe if this is connecting with you. This is worth it. OpenAI, the largest AI company in the world, lost $5 billion in 2024 and even more in 2025. Sam Altman publicly admitted that they are losing money even on their paid subscription. Deutsche Bank wrote, no startup in history has operated with losses on anything even approaching this scale. Nothing in history. The company is projected to accumulate $143 billion in negative cash flow before it ever turns a profit. Researchers from Stanford and UC Berkeley documented that GPT-4 accuracy on a specific task dropped from 97% to 2% in 3 months. We now have later models, but that's a substantial drop. And the reason it dropped applies to the current iterations. Currently, as of me speaking, it's 5.0. It didn't drop because AI got dumber. It dropped because shorter responses cost less money to generate. AI has an electricity problem. A single data center can draw hundreds of megawatts of power. Microsoft signed a deal to bring 3 Mile Island back online. That's a real thing. Not because they wanted to, not because it fits their green initiatives or their rhetoric for the past 20 years, but simply because when the rubber hits the road, the grid that they have can't keep up. Goldman Sachs projects data center electricity demand will more than double by 2030. That increase alone consuming more power than the entire country of Japan, which is known for its technological innovation. Your brain runs on just 20 watts. Think about that. A cup of coffee and a meal, and you can run complex pattern recognition, moral judgment, emotional intelligence, and 43 different facial muscles for 16 hours straight, all while rendering reality, being aware of your surroundings, having multiple thoughts and acting and moving around on the earth. And when you need more, you just have like a bowl of oatmeal and keep going. So another question, do you think Sam Altman, CEO of OpenAI, or Elon Musk, under the Grok model, do you really think they use the same versions of AI that you're using? No way. No, they have unfiltered, enhanced, way better versions, not limited versions like what we have. And if the owners of those AI companies in their unfiltered versions with AI absolutely unleashed with no limits, if they can't make AI profitable, think about that. AI is failing to ensure its own survival. And in a lot of ways, AI is getting worse because of the throttling that's a result of the power problems. So you do with a bowl of oatmeal what it takes AI, a nuclear reactor, and possibly even a depleted river or water table to create. And so I'm sorry to ask, but who should be scared exactly? You know, a related question. Probably a few years ago, everyone remembers the big push for electric cars. I'm a huge Tesla fanboy. I love electric cars. But are all of you driving electric cars right now? And if you do, are they really cheaper to operate than the gas car? Or do both things continue to coexist? Was the hype not quite right? I'm not saying electric cars aren't awesome, but if every single person on earth bought one right now, our power grid would collapse and you wouldn't be able to afford to charge your own car. The point is, I'm not saying AI is not powerful. I use it. I've used it every day, almost all day for probably the past 4 years. But power without direction is just noise. AI can be a big distraction. It's like the hammer, you can use it to build a house, to build something beautiful, or you can use it to smash your finger, right? It can be a distraction too. And in the direction, the classical knowledge, the judgment, the knowing what good looks like before it exists, that's not something that you can inference away. AI didn't scare me at first for the reason that probably most people expect. It scared me personally because for the first time, something else could think fast besides another human. And I had to ask myself if speed was always the point. What am I actually worth? It turns out a lot. What if you're the person who doesn't fit either one of these models? You're a new employee, you just graduated college, you're an entrepreneur, solopreneur, or creator that came in too late for this classical knowledge era and the mentorship, but you're just beginning to become an expert with AI or an expert in your field, and you're starting to use some of these tools. Did you miss all the practical experience windows? No, you didn't. Because we don't live in the matrix. We don't live in an artificial world. We live in a real world. You'll gain experience. You'll make mistakes. You'll have embarrassing mistakes, where maybe this tool or another lets you down. And of course, you're going to have wins from knowing how to research and how to learn in a different way than it's been available before. And by having these tools, knowledge skills, classical knowledge skills such as writing frameworks, or systems related to your field of work. And you gain the same experience as you learn and as you actually ship. But no matter what business you're in, you're still in the people business. You're still in the reality business. But you'll likely have a bit more of an accelerated learning curve right now than people have had before, but you can handle it. And now you can just say you have this safe chat box to ask questions that people haven't had access to in history, and you can close those knowledge gaps. The experience will give you the context to get the result that AI cannot do without context. It cannot do without your experience. You are the center of the loop to give the result that AI will never get by itself. We've all seen the result it gets by itself, and it's just slop. But the question has to be asked, so I'm glad it was. So, you can stop nodding now. Pick your type, whichever one applies to you, and just take one move tonight. The shame only survives in silence. It doesn't survive contact. If this channel is new to you, subscribe. We're building the Stupid movement, a community for people who are done performing certainty that they don't have and are ready to own what they actually know. My name is Robert, and I'm stupid. I'll see you in the next video. Own your stupid. Rewrite your story. And if you made it this far in the video, you have to subscribe and leave a comment down below. I want to know your thoughts and where you fall in on this. And I also want to know what challenges you're facing right now that we can talk about. So I'll see you in the next video.